Well, here is another tricky fret dress. And it's not about CNC machines and dial calipers. I've gone over this whole thing, adjusted the truss rod, checked it with string tension on, and checked it with string tension off. Same results. So we've got a high spot here, and another high spot here, another high spot here, and another high spot, this one all the way across. I always start at the top end. Boy, I can feel that grabbing right away. Now this is an oiled finish on this one. So when you get into a maple neck job, you spend more time masking than you do actually leveling spots. As you can see, there were all kinds of spots that needed to be addressed, and we're going to check them again. I've chalked them on the masking tape just so I can go back and check. The truss rod has almost no tension on it, just kind of made contact and then gave it a, man, I don't know, an eighth of a turn. I will be doing a compensated nut. James supplied the strings. They're a 10 to 48 strings, so it's sort of a custom set. Kurt Mangan fusion matched 10, 12, 16, 28, 38, 48. So I'll be setting this up for those strings, and the compensated nut and the whole job will be based on that amount of torque. No need to pull the neck off the guitar. In fact, it's much easier with the GPS Tech deck to have the neck attached. Makes the job easier. Now you do have to be careful when you're up close to the body. You start at the highest part of the radius and work towards the outside. Of course, when you get back to here, the body's no longer in the way, so I can go all the way across. Like I said, no vices, no clamps, no CNC machines, and no dial calipers. Completely unnecessary. Just kind of work towards that outside edge. It's a 7 1/4 inch radius, very tight radius on this. And you know, that's what the customer likes. So I got the sandpaper all stacked on the scrub block. We're starting with 400. We are going full length to the 400. And that is going to take out all of the tooling marks. There's so many spots on this one. I'm going with a second piece of 400. 600. Second one is 600. So this is cloth back paper. And now we're up to 800 grit. So 1200. So our jeweler's rouge. Couple of faint marks up here. I'm going to go back to the 800. There's just a little tiny mark on that last fret. That should do it. A couple more runs with the 1200 grit. Keep your eye on this, it's starting to burn through. Typically, the neck to body junction, even on Strats and Tellies, is where you got to pay the most attention. Yeah, another quick buff. I do like to go over the frets with a hand rub liquid compound. The 3M Final Finish, Ferracla, there's any auto body shop will carry this stuff. Two things I'm doing here, I'm giving the frets that final sheen or gleam, and I'm cleaning up the bulk of the compound. As I said before I pull the tape, giving that the final buff with a liquid compound. Once I get all that tape off, I might even go over it lightly again if it's necessary. Although this is looking pretty good just as is. I'll bring you in for a much closer look in a second. So we got all of those high spots, and now we can drop the action down nice and close for the customer. Now, before I get started, I just wanted to mention that I'm leaving these strings much longer than they will be at the post because we're fabricating the compensated nut at this point, so it's going to be coming on and off and on and off several times, so I need that extra room. Once the guitar is 100% calibrated, I'll just clip these strings back because I know the customer, he didn't want to have it winding around the post. He wanted to be able to do quick string change, which is what a lot of guys that have these locking tuners, that's why they like them. Just wanted to point that out before I get started. This guitar is done. Compensated nut, that fret dress, very tricky fret dress. This is like 3 times the work of just a regular rosewood board. Anyway, it's done, and kind of on the home stretch here realizing, oh, the battery's got to be changed. So with these EMGs, like the David Gilmour harness, you got to be ready for this. And quite frankly, I know you've got boxes of different pickups, James, I get that. But if you do settle on these EMGs and you like them and you want to keep them for the long run, installing a battery box would be a real good idea. Here's why. I'm going to put this on fast forward just to show you what we got to go through to change the battery. As you know, most modern Strats just come with 2 pivot posts. And it's for that reason that when I'm setting up these vintage style trem systems, I lift up those middle 4 screws so that the inside diameter of that hole is resting against the neck of the fastener, not the threads. And then the 2 outside ones, I bring them down until they just touch the plate. That seems to help with that super precise return to center after using the bar. Just wanted to point that out before we go into the studio and finally get to hear this guitar. Every once in a while I'll run into this where the machining fit of these screws into the saddles is just a little bit loose. It's almost imperceptible, but I could hear a little bit of a sizzle. And when that happens, I just add a little bit of Loctite. The Loctite will tighten it up and get rid of that sort of sizzling sound, and you'll still be able to adjust it after it sets. So I'm going to go all the way across all 6. Just put a drop of this blue Loctite on there. Now I will go over these with the radius gauge again after they're all done to make sure we got a match to that fingerboard radius. I'm backing it off first to make sure that we get all those threads coated. And like I said, I don't do this every time, but this particular bridge in the machining, I could kind of hear it sizzling. So when I hit the open string and then I pushed down on the saddle, it would stop. This will just help to get rid of that. You can see how loose that is. So I back it off so that we get all the threads and then wind it back into place. I do 1 fastener at a time, so I kind of more or less get everything back to where it was. Hopefully it is the last adjustment this time. I will raise those middle 4 strings up out of the way first. Oh yeah, that's much tighter. Yeah, no more, there'll be no more sizzling now. So I start by raising those middle 4 strings. You've seen this in other videos. Right up out of the way. I adjust the 2 outside strings to where I want the action to be. and then I'll drop the middle 4 back down until they just kiss that wooden radius gauge. The bass string is good. This top string, I'm going to drop it down just a little bit. It could come a little bit more actually. Okay, so the 2 outside strings are touching, and then we're going to bring these down until they just touch as well. So the Loctite was developed for machinists and millwrights, because a lot of the time, of course, they're working on machines and there's vibration, and when there's vibration, things can tend to loosen up. So that tightens the thread without permanently locking it in place, like it still remains adjustable. But the vibrations, and of course there's lots of vibration here in the bridge, are not going to loosen up those threads. And we are done with the bridge. Okay, this is what I'm blowing over. So I'm going to let that play. different sound for a Strat.